So, we're going to start with our climb system by dissecting the points. What the points are, you can think of them as sockets or points, okay? And it's basically where our character can be and move to another direction. So basically, whenever he hands together. Let's say our prefab for the points, and you can see that it's over here. Forget the lines, we're going to talk about them later. Okay, this is a climb point, and basically it's the most important thing into our climb system. The important thing about it is, you see, we have an empty game object, which is the point, and this is what actually goes on his hands. Okay, this empty game object will be over here. And the other important thing that we have to take care is the hips position. I'm going to enable the indicators so that we can see a little bit better where everything is. Okay, we can also name these hips instead of heights. Oops. But it's wise to remove the indicators once you have set all your prefabs. Otherwise you are going to be ending up with something like this. Okay, and imagine having all this on all these climbing positions. Okay, it's going to make Unity hate itself. So it's wise not to use the indicators for this. Later on we can see how we can create indicators like this. So the important thing, as I said, is we have our main point and we also have the hips position. Inside the hips position we have our point script, which we're going to see, and we have a few helper functions so that we can visualize a little bit stuff in the editor. Now, into a point script we have the neighbors, so basically what other point it listens to or it can connect to and your player can move, and we have our IK positions. So what this is, the IK positions are this little box over here. Okay, these are not game objects, these are just drawn gizmos we create with these scripts. So for the left hand, for example, I say the left hand is over here. Okay, of course, because we do not have selected this object, or this will work. Yeah, the left hand will be when your character is on this point. The left hand will be over here. Okay, the right hand will be over here, and the feet will be over here. So let's see this. I'm going to delete my, it doesn't matter since we are in play mode. Let's see this on our actual climb point that is inside our grid. Okay, we have the point, and this is what we place, and basically this, let me check this. Okay, this is what we use, and it helps us to place the points on our prefabs. Okay, when I say prefabs, I mean the door is a prefab, the window is a prefab, the ledge is a prefab, and everything else we place those. Okay, so this helps us place it, and wherever I move this and rotate it, it's going to keep to make the character be orientated in the right position. So if you want to have a climb system that he climbs like this, you can also do it. Okay, and everything else. Let's bring him back. Okay, we have the position of the hips, which is, as you can see, exactly at the correct position. And since this has the point script, we can actually see all its connected neighbors. Okay, we saw the IK, and we're basically seeing that depending on the direction which we take our input and we turn it into a direction, the connections we can go to, okay, some of them might be similar, but the important thing is that it actually works. Okay, and I think some might be hidden also. So what it says is, if we are pressing point 1 on the X, that means we want to move on the hips position. Okay, this lines shows from hip position to hip position. Okay, it doesn't show the helper point, which what we are actually placing. It shows the hip position, and you can see our character controller in here. Okay, and inside my hips over here, my hips game object, I have my case. So if I want to move the left hand, I should also stop that. Okay, if I want, when he's on this point, if I want to move his left hand and have it be attached somewhere else, the rotation. The rotation right now I have hard coded it to always look the palm should always look towards the shoulder, but we can change that, of course. Okay, so if I want it when he's here on this point, on this exact point, to have his hand like this, then he will place it like that. So what that means is when we are moving on another point without having to jump there, we take the side which we're going to call the landing side, okay, and the other side will be the following side. Now that is a little bit ahead. So in short, when we are moving from point to point, we're basically updating the IK targets, okay, one by one, and this is on a two-step transition. If we are going to jump somewhere else, okay, you can understand what I'm doing over here. We have 5 points, 5 positions, and I'm moving from one to the other. When I want to jump up, that means we update all the target positions directly and we let a curve handle all the transition. Okay, so it's a one-step transition, and yeah, okay, so one-step transition when we're jumping, and when we are moving like this, it's basically a two-step transition. As you can see that when I'm reaching this point, instead of grabbing the original position of the IK handler, it uses this. And what this also helps us is, since we are updating the IK, is we can move like this, and we basically don't have to add a lot of stuff. Okay, pretty simple. So let's go into the code of the points without further ado. Let's see the point. Okay, we have our point, we have our scripts. Basically the prefab will be, make sure both of these look at the same direction, of course. Okay, and where we are actually placing the hips, okay, this you basically have to eyeball it. Okay, so what you can do is take the character, make him play the legs idle together, and I should have selected the other one. Okay, place an empty game object over here, place another empty game object, which we are going to have our point script in this. Okay, and the other important thing that you have to see is that you see that the root of the player is over here. It's not on his hips, it's over here, and we will handle the offset, this offset. Okay, we will handle this with the code. And why we have this offset is because it makes for smoother transition between when we are actually grabbing on or dismounting from a climb system or a climb tree. Okay, it makes for a bit of a smoother transition. So let's go to the code, have our point, and let's open it up. We're going to include namespaces, of course, for easier use. And we also need this to be serializable. Let me see if I have any other class. No, we don't. So, let's start. We need a list of neighbors. What this neighbors list is this class. So basically a neighbor is another point, but we need to know a few things. The first thing we need to know is the direction from our point towards the target point. Okay, so we need these variables. And secondary, which will handle how we want to handle the transition, is the connection type. Connection type can be in between, which means two-step transition. Direct are the jumps, and dismount and fall is basically some special cases. Dismount is when you are going over the ledge, okay, and you can walk again, and falling is of course falling, letting go of the climb system and falling back. Okay, similarly to our neighbors, we're going to have another class so that we can have IK positions, the IK goal, the target, and if we want to have a hint. Okay, but the IK we're going to handle it on a separate video. So the points and what the points are. We have a list of neighbors, which we just saw what it is. We have our IKs. We have a few helper functions, which basically this returns an IK. We pass an IK goal and it returns us the IK we have created in this list. Okay. And when we want to take the neighbor, we pass the target and it's going to return us the actual neighbor class. Okay, so we have the direction and all that. It just looks inside our neighbors list, and if it finds a neighbor entry that has the same target that we want, it's going to return that as a return value. Okay, that's basically the bare bones of our point and its whole anatomy. So let's see how we are supposed to work with these points. So let's say I have let me quickly create. Okay, let's say we have something like this, or whatever can this be. Okay, I don't know, maybe it's an antenna that we can actually climb on it, or whatever, you know, it can be a door, it can be the window, or anything else. So this is our model. It has nothing to do with collisions, it has nothing to do with pretty much anything. This is only the visual part of our prefab. I'm going to add this inside an empty game object, and I'm going to reset their position. Okay, this is only the visual part. Do not confuse it. This can look any way we want. Okay. So what I have to do over here, of course, I should also separate them. I actually need to start adding climb points. So I'm going to go into my prefab. Notice that my prefabs are inside the resources folder, inside the climbing. Okay, there is being inside a resources folder is kind of important since we do not want to assign this, so we can take them anytime we want. Okay, I'm adding my point inside my newly created game object, which is supposed to be a prefab later on, and I'm going to keep in mind the important things. As I said, the important thing is to face the correct position, like this. Okay, and we can also just something like this. This is where the hands are going to go, or the basic, not the actual hands. This is where the hips are going to be, and the arcade is, you can see the arcades. So what I have to do right now is basically this thing. Okay, of course it's not really helpful, so instead of adding the points one by one, I have a few helper functions or a few helper scripts. So I'm going to only create an empty game object. I'm going to call this points holder, and I'll place it somewhere in the middle. Doesn't matter at all. So I'm going to use another script which I'm going to call handle points alone, and here's where we can have a little bit more control over our points. So what I'm going to start with, it doesn't matter, these do not matter. I'm going to say create indicators. So what this did is it created me two indicators. So I'm going to place this one on one edge and place the other on the other edge. Okay, so I have 1 point over here and 1 point over here. And what I'm going to do now is hit update points. So what it did, okay, these are our two starting points, and you will see that it changed the position of the final one of the second point, and that's kind of hard coded. I wanted to do that, and it added in between them, in between the 2 points, other points that are all on the same, they have the same distance one to another. Now I can also do this, it won't change anything, but I think the distance between them, the one that I've hard coded, it looks better with the current arcade, the way we handle the arcade anyway. Okay, and I do not have to add anything else. Okay, I do not have to go and connect them and connect my points and create neighbors and all that. They have their arcade since they are from the prefabs. Okay, and this is now an actual prefab. So when I'm creating a building like this, you can see that, or like this, okay, it's separated, has now no climbing points, not any of these prefabs. So what I have to do over here is just go take my newly created prefab and place it wherever I want. Now there are a few parameters that when we create the connections, okay, so we avoid having this connected to this one over here. There's no need for this, or from these points we cannot go from these points. Okay, so when you create, or when your level designer creates, or your level creator, if you don't have a designer, creates the level, he just have to think about these two things. Okay, basically it's creating your models, and if you have a modular level kits, or if you create levels with a modular workflow, this just comes as easy as it gets. Before you set up your modular points, like this, you just have to go and add the climb points. And the other important thing is that you have to keep in mind is that all these climb points that are usually close together, like all these climb points, are under the same game object, because we want to handle the connections automatically, so we do not have to go and make them by ourselves. Okay, you can see that I have all of them under the same game object, and when I select the parent game object, and this will probably let me see. Yeah, it should have worked, but it didn't right now. If I reset my connections and hit update, okay, this is our network. So basically it's the directions and the movement the player can have from one point to another. Of course, this is the hips position, so this hip position is going to be for a point that is somewhere over here. Okay, and you saw how easy it is. Just place the prefabs, just initialize your prefabs, set them up, and we will see on the next video how we can create this handle position. And the other good thing is, since all this is in editor, okay, I have my one grid over here and I have another grid over here that handles all the rest, and I want to connect them. Of course, we can later on create a script that does that, or we can just go in here, find the closest hip point, which is this. You will see, since I resetted this, this grid has lost the connection with this grid, but this one still keeps it. Okay, so basically I can come over here and say add another neighbor, jump towards that point, and the direction will be -1. But since it already has one, I do not need to add that. But let's go and add the connection between them. The far edge usually is the second one, or whenever it's on the far right anyway. Okay, our hit points, you see the connections is going to have, yeah, as I said, this they point towards hip positions and not the helper climb points. You can see that yeah, the hands were going to be placed on this one. So yeah, I'm going to lock this, and I'm going to come over here and say add a new neighbor. On the right direction, of course, that will be 1 on the X and 0 on the Y. We want to jump towards there, otherwise it's just going to stretch out. And what we're also going to add is, if we're going to go over here, I have locked my dog so that this doesn't go away. I will find my further left position, okay, and I'm just going to drag and drop the hips over here, and it's basically done. So I'm going to hit play, and I can come over here, climb towards that position, and jump like that, and move from one grid to the other grid, so you can understand how easy it is to create a level and have full control over it. The other thing that we haven't yet covered is that on our helper points, okay, climb points, we have a few other stuff. Now, the single point is basically just a helper. So if you have single point and hit create indicators, it's not going to create two indicators, it's going to create only one. Okay, this is only for helper. The other important thing though is dismount points. Okay, if this is a ledge that it's dismount point, of course you do not have to add a model, you can just add the points from directly to the house, a model or whatever you want to have. Okay, as I said, this one is just the visual part, and it doesn't matter if this is over there, the dismount points will always be, or all your points will always be at the point, at the position you have placed them. Okay, and same goes for this ones. So dismount points, as you can see, the dismount points are not included, are automatically generated first of all, and they are not included inside the tree. It just goes, it's just they are as their own game object. So dismount point is basically exactly almost the same, and I see there's a duplicate over here, almost the same as the points, but the connection type with them is dismount, and this is where you actually you know, go over your ledge. Okay, and they are connected with another point, usually with -1. Later on we're going to add so we can jump. Right now we cannot jump from this point back to the point over here. We are going to do this, we're going to handle this a little bit different. Okay, so for now, if you have the dismount points, okay, it's just going to create a few dismount points and place them a little bit further from the point you are creating. So let's go over here. This is connected to itself, and it shouldn't. Let me find one point. Okay, our points, and if you are pressing up, it has the dismount point, and you can see that the connection is like this. It's a little bit, yeah, it doesn't matter. Your character is not going to follow this path. It's going to handle we're going to handle the path with a curve, so we can have more control over it. Anyway, let's forget the dismount points for right now. They are kind of special cases, and we're going to see the special cases on the end. So let's see the helpers. I have my game object. Okay, let's see the handle points. Or better yet, before we see the handle points, let's see the editor classes. Draw wire cube is what creates these two cubes over here, or the 4 cubes we have for the arcade. Draw a line individual is what creates, if I select one point that has neighbors, doesn't matter which one right now, if I select the hips, okay, it's what creates the lines that says that basically show us where we can move to. So let's see draw wire cube, but before we actually see draw wire cube, you can see that it's a little bit bare bones. We actually have to see the editor handle script. Okay, this is the script that will handle anything we want to visualize. This will only run if we are in the Unity editor. Okay, and we also need the namespace of Unity editor. We have it under the namespace climbing. Draw wire cube editor, it takes from the editor, and you need to assign custom editor type of draw wire cube. And then you go on scene GUI, draw wire cube, which is the script T, and we assign the target as draw wire cube. For every IK position we have on a draw wire cube, and The draw wire cube is this one over here. Okay, and we take the IK positions from the point. Okay, we do a for loop, and if it's not null, we start with a target color red, and based on the IK goal, so we can have a color code different IK positions. Okay, we just set a random color, doesn't matter. We say handles color target color, and we say handles cube cap 0. I think it's forgot what it is. Control ID, just put 0, the position, its rotation, and its size. Okay, its position is going to be the target position of that IK, its rotation will be the target rotation, and the size just a small number. If we have assigned a hint on the IK position, it's going to create the IK hints. So for the hints are basically where you want your elbows to look towards to, and you can see that I think I didn't use IK hints for the hands. Let's see. Yeah, I used. So where are they? Oh, they are, as you can see, they are further away from the points. Okay, IK hints is where you want either your elbows or knees to look to. And what we're going to, if we have the IK positions are null, then assign the IK positions from the T, which is our actual script, to transform, get components, get the point, and assign that list where everything we have on our IKs. Since we have made the IKs on our prefab, that means this is probably always going to be populated. It's just a failsafe. Okay, this is how we handle the draw wire cubes. Similarly, draw line visualization, which is what draws lines towards from one point to the other. Okay, almost exactly the same. If T is null, just return. Okay, do not do anything, otherwise you're going to get errors. If the connected points on T, and is this one or is this one? Yeah, I think this one. We have draw line individual. Okay, connected points are this, which is basically your neighbors. So just a list, which we will see in a bit. Okay, connect points. We add all our points, all our neighbors into our connected points list, and for each one we check a few things. Okay, if a target is not assigned, just keep this entry. Position 1, position 2. Okay, from our position towards the target's position, and we check the connection type. If it's direct, that means one step transition, is going to have color red or just any other color you want to have. If it's a two-step connection, that means they are pretty close together, we're just going to add a green color. And then we use handle draw line position 1, position 2, and we also have into our script a refresh, so it just basically it's going to update, it's going to stop refreshing all the time. And let's see the final one, but we're not going to see the handle points connection on this video. But as I said, it's still the same. Draw line, draw the connected points. It's basically the same with this one. It's just that this one gets the points, gets all the points inside our grid. Okay, get all connections, every connection that any script can have. And what this does is, because we have for each point with another point, for every connection we have basically two neighbors. So because one point is going to be connected with another point, and you have one connection that says you can go over here from this point to this point, and the opposite. So this point has the connection that, that says you can move to this point. That means we're going to have duplicate lines. We do not want to have duplicate lines, and that is handled inside this function, which we're going to see on the next video. But basically it's the same with everything else. Okay, the only thing that changes is this one, as I said. So let's see the actual scripts that go on game objects, and that will be draw wire cube. This will only be when we are inside the Unity editor. We have a list of the arcade positions, and if we want to refresh, if we are refreshing, of course execute in edit mode. If we are refreshing, it's going to clear the arcade positions, and it's going to let what we have created, what we just see on the editor handle. Okay, it's going to go clear this list, and when this list is clear, it's going to go and populate it from our script, from the above script. Draw line individual, exactly the same, just another different type of list. Okay, it just clears the list. And draw line, which we're going to see, let's just see it over here. It's just the same, it's just another, almost another. It's basically a copy paste, but it handled it differently on the editor handle. So what is left us is that we have prefabs that we create climb points, which is basically the spine of our climb system, because in theory it's just moving from one point to the other. You can think it like a grid system, although it's not. I guess you can say it's a grid system, but it's not a traditional grid system. And since of course it looks like a grid, you can actually add the AI on top of it. You can add the A star on it. It's just, it's basically a grid. And as I said, what they left us is with individual prefabs that, we have our basic prefabs, and we have some prefabs that can be like special cases like this. And let's see these special cases. Okay, these are the same prefabs like the normal ones, and these ones too, but let's see something else. So I skipped ahead a little bit since there's no point in watching me climbing all this. Okay, so I'm over here. Okay, and the next point that I've went ahead and manually connected it, not only it has, as you can see, it has a different orientation. So if I press like this, you can see that it's in the middle. Okay, so I'm basically now sitting between the 2 points, and you can see that one arcade looks towards the other and looks towards the other. What I can do in this case is add a middle point between these two and fix the arcade positions so that they look correct. So before moving to this point, I will have another helper point that's going to be in the middle of these two. Okay, that's going to be in the middle of one point over here and the other point over here, and it's going to have your arcade hands and arcade and the feet on the correct position, so the transition between the 2 points is going to be more smoother. The other thing I wanted you to see is that because we have created the prefabs and the prefabs have their own arcade handles individually, you can see that as you can see, okay, I'm on the points that are on this ledge, so I'm going to start moving diagonally. Of course the hands look way off. However, what we can come over here and do is, I'm actually going to not close the, I'm going to go and take, and what I've also didn't mention is that the way we place our hips won't matter a lot. Basically this, because we hard code the position of the hips, that's why it doesn't follow. But I didn't want you to see the hips, I want you to see this. Okay, I have my left hand over here and I have it, I'm going to place it somewhere that it looks correct. Yeah, we do not have any rotation, forget. The rotation, as I said, looks something like this. Can do. Okay, like this, and let's take the right hand now and let's place it like, forget about the rotation, like this. Can also, yeah, we cannot. However, I can go into my character controller, I think, yeah, I can hard code its position like this. Okay, so I can go and have different prefabs based on, or yeah, we can write the differences in the prefab for each point by code. Okay, and if I go and do the same for all the other changes, all the other points we have over here, when I'm moving diagonally, okay, you can see that it has, yeah, let's do for one more, let's fix the positions for one more so that it actually shows. Okay, my hands, it's not the hand we are actually, yeah, let me pause and fix them. So yeah, I went ahead and fixed a little bit the points. Okay, I didn't do the best job I could do, just so that you can showcase, so that we showcase how you can make different AK positions. Okay, all these points, all these in between points have different AK positions, so you can go ahead and basically make special cases for each AK point. And another thing that I just thought of is that your AK handles don't actually have to be under your hips, so you can use your hips, have a different place for your hips and a different one for your case inside your point. Of course, to see the hips position, we actually have to go out of our point and then go in again. Okay, so imagine the possibilities we have with a system that's flexible as this. Okay, you see that he's actually on his hips. So we covered most of the basics. Yeah, we basically covered the anatomy of our points. Okay, so I'm going to end this part of the video over here. Make sure you understand how the points work and how we place the AK positions, how we set up our points, and how we set up our prefabs. Okay, so on the next video we're going to see how we can automatically create our whole of our grid. And the grid, I mean by grid, I mean the climbing positions, or basically the grids. And the next one we're going to see how we move through the grid, how we play the animations, and how we can use the cosmetic touches like IK handles and all that. So how we can handle the IK. And then the last one will be about making the simple third-person controller, just for showcase this. So you know what to do: like, subscribe, Patreon or Gumroad, all that, if you like to see videos like this, and so that I'm able to make even more. So I'll see you next time.